12-year-old got rid of her entire family so that she could be with her 300-year-old werewolf boyfriend. Jasmine Richardson was born on June 23rd of 1994 and was from Alberta, Canada. She was the oldest sibling and she had a younger brother who was 8 years old at the time. Jasmine was known to be a good student, polite, and well liked by her friends. However, once she became a teenager, she started to rebel against her parents and struggle with her identity. Once she was 11 years old, she started dressing in dark clothing, wearing heavy makeup, and was embracing the goth culture. However, it was during this time that Jasmine's life took a dangerous turn when she started talking to this guy named Jeremy Stenke. Jeremy was 23 years old when he met Jasmine, and she was only 12 years old at this time. The two had met at a punk rock concert, and despite the age difference, they quickly formed a bond. Jeremy was known for his disturbing beliefs and behavior, and he claimed that he was a 300-year-old werewolf. But Jasmine was drawn to his rebellious and edgy persona. She saw Jeremy as an escape from her parents' rules and expectations. The two started a secret relationship, and it quickly escalated from flirtation to something far more dangerous. Jasmine's parents were deeply concerned about this relationship and didn't want their daughter to see Jeremy. Jasmine felt misunderstood and even more distanced from her parents. Her anger and frustration grew towards her family, and Jeremy came up with the idea to eliminate anyone who stood in their way. As Jasmine and Jeremy's relationship progressed, their conversations became more dark and twisted. They began discussing their fantasies without being interfered by her parents, so they came up with a plan to get rid of her entire family. Jasmine's anger towards her family came to a point where she couldn't see them as loving parents and a brother. She just saw them as people who were getting in her way of her happiness. On April 23rd of 2006, Jasmine and Jeremy carried out their plan. That evening, Jeremy arrived at Jasmine's home armed with a knife. He was dressed in all black and his face was covered with a mask. Jasmine had let Jeremy inside of the home, and she saw as he attacked her mother first. Jasmine's father heard the commotion. He hurried over, saw that his wife was dead on the floor, then he was attacked as well, and he lost his life. Meanwhile, Jasmine went upstairs to her brother's room and ended his life. Once they were done, Jasmine and Jeremy fled the scene, and they truly believed that they had succeeded in their plan. They spent the night at a friend's house, and they were just seen laughing and acting like nothing out of the ordinary just happened. The next day, on April 24th, a young boy went to Jasmine's home who was friends with Jasmine's younger brother, and he saw that the front door was open, and he was met with the gruesome scene, so he ran back home, told his mom, and she called police. Once authorities arrived to the scene, they saw the bodies and saw that Jasmine wasn't there, so they thought maybe she was abducted or harmed, but that was not the case. Evidence was found at the scene, including emails and text messages between Jasmine and Jeremy, and it was revealed that they were both in on it. Police issued an Amber Alert for Jasmine, and they were on the hunt to find Jasmine and Jeremy. The couple was found the following day, and they were arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. Once this case was sent to trial, many were trying to comprehend how a 12-year-old girl could do this to her family. Jasmine was sentenced to 10 years in custody, and Jeremy was sentenced to 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Jasmine, who is now going by a different name, was released in 2016, and Jeremy is still in prison.
This young girl's murder is one of Manchester's most infamous unsolved cases. She was murdered over 40 years ago, and we still have no idea who did it. I'm True Crime Caitlin, and this is the murder of Lisa Hessian. Lisa Jane Hessian was born in April 1970 and lived in Lee, Greater Manchester, with her mum Christine. She attended Bedford High, where she was described as a really good student. She was popular, she was outgoing, and was someone who was always up for a laugh. She was academically gifted, she was just naturally very, very smart, and she was also athletic. She ran cross country and she also did gymnastics. On the 8th of December 1984, 14-year-old Lisa was pleading with her mum Christine to allow her to go to her friend's house party. Eventually, Christine gave her permission, but only under the condition that Lisa returned home by 10:30 p.m. Overjoyed, Lisa attended the house party with her boyfriend, where she was actually the only girl there. Once it got to around about 10:15, Lisa started going all around the party saying her goodbyes. Her boyfriend walked her outside of the house, they shared a kiss, and then he waved Lisa off as she began her almost 2-mile walk back home. Walking all alone in the pitch black. Many witnesses would later come forward saying that they saw Lisa on different parts of her journey, but It was when she was a stone's throw away from home, literally 1 minute away, when she was attacked. Lisa was forced into an alleyway between Newlands Road and Rugby Road where she was sexually assaulted. During the assault, the attacker firmly held his hand over Lisa's face while pulling tightly down on the collar of her t-shirt, stopping her from breathing, which killed her. Back at home, Christine was sat watching the clock, waiting for her daughter arriving. She eventually made her way to the door, where she peered out into the darkness, hoping to catch a glimpse of Lisa's white boots. But she never came. Christine gave her a little bit of leeway. Maybe she had lost track of time at the party and was running a little bit late. She waited around about 15 minutes when she knew that something wasn't right, and so she contacted the police to report her daughter missing. Christine wasn't about to sit at home waiting around for the police to arrive though. She pulled on her coat, pulled on her shoes, and went round walking the streets seeing if she could find her daughter. As you can imagine, she was absolutely beside herself with worry. While out walking around, Christine would actually walk past the alleyway where her daughter's body was lay. She walked past this alleyway 3 times. Shortly before midnight, a man who was out walking his dog with his 13-year-old son would discover the body of Lisa Hessian. She was found with her skirt pulled up, exposing her torn underwear. She also had bruises to her lips and her face. The pathologist who conducted Lisa's autopsy determined that she died from pressure to the neck, and this is where the theory came from that the attacker must have covered her nose and mouth with his hand while tightly pulling down on the collar of her shirt, stopping her from breathing. The coroner even said that he believed that the killer may not have even intended to kill Lisa. He only tried to silence her as she screamed out for help as he was sexually assaulting her. 3 days later, on the 11th of December, Manchester police held a press conference where they dropped a bombshell which sent shockwaves through the community. During this conference, they detailed 3 other sexually motivated attacks that had taken place in the months leading up to Lisa's murder. These all happened around about the area of Rugby Road. The victim from the first known attack was able to give the police a lot of information. This attack happened in the August time, and this woman was walking to her home behind Rugby Road when she was attacked from behind. She had her mouth covered by this man who dragged her into an alleyway and threatened to not only murder her, but anyone else who came across them. She told the police that she was able to escape this attack by conversing with the attacker. They began walking together, and he revealed to this woman that he had struggled finding a girlfriend. She was only able to give the police a very vague description of this man because it was dark and he was mostly walking behind her. She said that he was in his 20s, he was considerably good looking, and he was wearing jogging bottoms. When the police conducted door-to-door inquiries surrounding Lisa's murder, they would learn from witnesses that in the days before the murder, Lisa had been followed. A man had been watching her and had even followed her all the way home. The police felt pretty confident that they were going to be able to track down Lisa's killer. They did make one arrest not long after the murder. However, that man was released without charge. He died in 2005, never admitting if he was involved in the murder, and they have never been able to rule him out as a suspect. He has been the only person ever arrested in connection with Lisa's case. In May of 1985, so just a couple of months after Lisa's murder, another woman was attacked only around 100 yards away from where Lisa's body was found. This man had creeped up behind this woman, covered her mouth, dragged her into an alleyway, and began trying to rip off her clothes. He wasn't successful in whatever he wanted to do because he fled when he saw a car driving towards them. Could this have been Lisa's killer wanting to strike again?
And I saw these ditches, and I thought it was like a river ditch, and then I almost fell in it. When I saw this video, I immediately thought of Brandon Swanson, because Brandon Swanson disappeared without a trace while on the phone with his parents, and one of the leading theories about his disappearance is that he fell into a sinkhole. It was shortly after midnight on May 14th, 2008, when Brandon drove his car into a ditch on his way home from a small gathering at a fellow college student's house. Brandon was uninjured after crashing his car, so he got out and placed a call to his parents just before 2 a.m. While on the phone, he explains the situation to his father, who in turn tells him to stay where he is so that he can drive out and locate him. Now, at the time, Brandon believed that he was outside of the small town of Lind, and while talking to his dad, he said he could see the town's lights up ahead. As his parents headed out to find him, Brandon began flashing his brights to signal them to his location, and his parents did the same. But neither of them saw anything at all. Brandon stayed on the phone with his parents the entire time, but after a while, he started to get frustrated that his parents couldn't find him. So he decided that he was going to start walking towards the lights that he believed were coming from the downtown area of Lind. While walking, he continued to stay on the phone with his parents, but after 47 minutes into the call, Brandon interrupted their conversation saying, "Oh shit," and the line went dead. Brandon's dad attempted to call his phone back multiple times, but had no luck. Brandon was no longer answering. The drive from the home where the party was to his parents' home where Brandon was heading when he crashed should have only taken about 30 minutes. He left that home around midnight, but placed the call to his parents 2 hours later, stating that he was stuck in the ditch. Now, we don't know what Brandon was doing during that almost 2-hour window, but it's speculated that he may have just been trying to get himself out of the ditch before finally giving up and calling for help. Brandon was reported missing the next morning. When pulling up his cell phone records, it showed that he had actually been 25 miles in a different direction from where he thought he was. And it was this information that led to the discovery of his car. Although there was no damage done to his vehicle, 2 of the wheels weren't even touching the ground. Nothing unusual was found at the site, but the grass was so high in this area that investigators were unable to see which direction his footprints went off in. So they brought in search and rescue dogs who led them to a wooded area near a riverbank. The river was searched extensively, but they never found anything. They even set up these gates so that in the case that Brandon's remains or any of his belongings were in the river, they would get caught up in these nets while going downstream, but there was still nothing. And to this day, the whereabouts of Brandon Swanson is still a mystery. If the trail the dogs were following was in fact where Brandon went, he walked through a field instead of walking alongside the road. So despite nothing being found during the search, some theorize that he fell into the river before his phone went dead, or that he may have fallen into a sinkhole while walking across the field, similar to what we saw in the first video.
What happens to child molesters in prison? So this is a graphic one. I'm gonna keep it real with this. If you're a chomo in the state of Florida, we got rules on the inside. It doesn't matter if you have a day left, a year left, or a life sentence. If you get put in a cell or anywhere near a child molester that's verified, it's mandatory you slice their face open, mark them, or at least beat them to a bloody pulp every single time. Some organizations and gangs have it written in their constitution that if they even come across a child molester and don't act in violence, they will get violated. Now, that's just the basics, but let's talk about first the food situation. Now, just getting a regular state tray, once they find out it's going to a chomo, they're going to put old chicken juice in there and try to give you E. coli. They're going to spit in it, jizz in it, put shit in it, any glass, fucking poison, anything they can find, tainted blood, whatever it may be. Now, of course, if you're getting any type of money, it's all getting stolen from you and you're getting extorted. And if you even think you're going to call home and tell them not to send you any money, or you're just going to act like you ain't going to go to the canteen window, they will reach out to their people on the outside, find out who your people are, and tell them, if you do not send this money to this man or this account or that account, we will cut this chomo's throat. And even a lot of times, once they realize someone's a chomo, somebody will reach out, study their case, see who the victims are, reach out to the family and say, look, we'll take care of him. You mind putting a little bit of money here and there? And you will be surprised how many people will send money to get that revenge on a motherfucker on the inside that hurt a child. I know it sounds crazy, but I've seen guys with 1 day left end up getting 10 years tacked onto their sentence because they were put in the cell with one of these demonic, evil motherfuckers and they beat him half to death. Until you're around that pure evil that hurts kids, fucking predators, and then they get in an environment where there's a bunch of alpha males and men that are ready to fight, stab, and just ready for whatever. Look how quickly they turn into the pastor, or they turn into the guy with their head down reading and want nothing to do with anything. The scared little old man, the cripple. That's what they do. They're chameleons. Wolves in sheep clothing. But in prison, it doesn't matter if you're 80 or 18. If you're a chomo, you're going to get just your whole entire face cut, killed, whatever it may be, poisoned. I mean, everything possible. So a lot of them try to run the protection, but there is no protection when it comes to organizations. You know, the real gangs, the real organizations that are part of prison, they'll cut your face, extort you, extort your family, and then eventually kill you if you're a chomo. So the only protection they can get is from booty bandits. It's kind of ironic. They're so vulnerable, they're so weak, that the only people that protect them are the ones that are going to do the same thing to them that they did to innocent people out there. I remember when I was in DC confinement, and this is how crazy it is. I mean, even the COs, I mean, everybody, race, religion, color, creed, law enforcement, convict, it doesn't matter. We all come together to make sure a child molester suffers. So I remember a CO comes to me and says, basically, there's been some money put on this chomo's head, and when you go to shower, we're going to pop a door, and when we do, you know, we're accidentally going to put you in the cell with him. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm all for it. I will throw my entire life away just to get revenge against somebody that's hurt a child. That's just how I live. That's my principles. That's my morals. I don't give a fuck if I'm about to go home in 20 minutes. If I can get my hands on a chomo, I'm going to do everything possible to make their life just completely a disaster. So the CEO acts like he's reading mail to me. You know, I'm in DC, so they put the mail through the little slot thing. And he's like, basically it's shower time. We're going to pop the door and we're accidentally going to put you in that cell. And I mean, they gave me the whole game. They said, and when you go to shower, accidentally the shower head will be loose on it and it might even come off. So as I'm getting out of the shower, you know, the cell I'm supposed to go into, I walk past it and they put me in the PC cell with the chomo. He's screaming, I'm not supposed to have a cellmate. I'm not supposed to have a cellmate. And he's screaming and yelling and everyone's banging on the window. I mean, no one gives a fuck. I mean, you're in the dungeon. I got the piece of shower kind of like tucked like in my shower roll a little bit. You know, I'm getting unhandcuffed, so I kind of like got it on here, coming in here like that. It's under my armpit like that. And immediately after they uncuff me, I look over, the COs walk away. I tell dude, hey, chill, man. It ain't even like that, bro. You know, I think it's a mistake. I'm just trying to go home. He's like, man, all right, man, but I'm not supposed to have a bunkie, da-da-da. So once I see that the COs are out of eyesight and out of hearing anything so we can make this happen, I ask him. I said, let me ask you a question. You feel vulnerable right now? Like those kids? He's cowering down in a little ball, and I'm just beating the shit out of him with this shower pipe. And I kept asking him, huh? This is for the kid. Bam! Kick him in the head. This is for all the kids you hurt. Bam! Hit him with the shower piece. And I kept asking him, you feel vulnerable? Where you at, tough guy? Huh? You like to hurt little kids? Come on, hurt me. I remember standing up, get up and hurt me. And he would just lay there looking up like, please, please. Finally, the COs come in, and they got to make it look like it's something real. Like they made a mistake for real after about 15 minutes. And I remember when I was whooping this chomo's ass, I would just stand there and say, get up. Come on, tough guy. Show me what you do. You like to go after kids? Come on, treat me like one of them. And he just sat there and let me just beat the shit out of him until he basically was asleep. I mean, I butchered his face, you know, and I don't regret it. You do not hurt children. You do not hurt women. The demonic, sick motherfuckers. So the COs come in there, they pepper spray me, slam me, cuff me, and take me to the shower and put me back in my cell. A couple weeks later, I go to confinement court, kangaroo court, and they found me innocent. And next thing I know, I got a couple $100 on my canteen books. Hey, it is what it is. Don't hurt our children. Stay out. Stay free. Us.
This clip terrified me and my siblings as children. The truth behind it disturbed us even more as adults. I have a core memory from my childhood of this documentary advert flashing up on TV. It was a child, but she was running around on all fours like a dog, aggressively barking and growling at the TV. Me and my sister were so disturbed by this that we would run to grab the remote and race to turn it off. But as I got older, my morbid curiosity got the better of me and I was thinking, what the hell was that advert? Turns out the documentary was about a little girl, Oksana Malaya. Now, she was born in the 80s in Ukraine and she was born a totally normal little girl. But sadly, she was severely neglected. And I'm not talking left on her own in a cot for a little while. I'm talking locked outside in the cold with dogs. Now, her parents were in no fit state to look after her. They spiraled into addiction and honestly, it just got worse and worse and worse. I'm not even sure that half the time they even realized that they had a little girl. The time she was found by social services, they were so disturbed they'd never seen anything like it. The child was now 7. It was actually a miracle that she was still alive. She'd been raised by stray dogs. And this was something the authorities had never in their lives seen before. She couldn't walk properly. She couldn't even speak. She crawled around on all fours and people tried to talk to her and she would just bark back. She even groomed herself like a dog and slept on the floor alongside them, like that was her normal. And when police arrived, bless these dogs, they were like her little guardian angels. They were so protective of her. They surrounded her. They weren't going to let the police get anywhere near her. They were trying to guard her from being taken away, which is just so sweet to me. They had to be coaxed away with food for the authorities to get anywhere near the little girl. Police obviously removed her from her parents' custody, if you want to call it that, but sadly so much damage was done. It would take a miracle to rehabilitate her. Years and years of neglect from the adults did take its toll, but honestly where the adults failed, the dogs actually really stepped up. She had to go through extensive therapy. The staff worked day and night to try and figure out a plan of how to get her back to kind of functioning in normal society. And she actually ended up doing quite well given the impossible circumstances. She learned to speak fluently, but she was always just going to find learning new skills really challenging. She's now, I believe, in her 40s, and as far as I can tell, she had a job working on a farm. But sadly, she said that she still occasionally feels lonely and kind of reverts back to being very canine-like. I guess it's kind of a comfort for her. She said when she feels low, she crawls on all fours and has to spend time with dogs.
She caused her own kidnapping so she could write a book about it. Hannah Potts lived with her family in Indiana on a farm. On the night of July 23rd, 2020, Hannah told her mom that she was unable to fall asleep, but that she was going to go out for a walk and take some photos of the farm animals. So she took her phone and left. The next morning, her family discovered that she never made it back home, so they checked her Facebook account and saw a chilling video that she had posted. Once they play the video, Hannah is saying, "Mom, where are you? Something bad happened last night when I was taking photos of the animals. A black man appeared out of nowhere. He grabbed me and put me in a brown truck. I'm in a room. You need to tell police I love you and tell Dad I love him too." Once Hannah's family saw this video, they warned the police about what was going on and they started to investigate and even got help from the FBI. In just a few hours, Hannah's video started to go viral and it seemed like media all over the country was covering Hannah's case. A bunch of people helped to volunteer look for Hannah, and Hannah's family was also posting this all over social media hoping someone knew where Hannah was. The FBI was able to track Hannah's phone and they discovered some interesting things. First was that in the early morning of her kidnapping, there was a mobile phone tower about 3 kilometers away from her home when they first got a signal from her phone. Hannah had posted that Facebook video around 6 in the morning, and by that time she was already kidnapped, so if her phone was connected to that tower, she was somewhere near her home. They were also trying to figure out why Hannah decided to post a 6-minute video onto her Facebook instead of calling 911. But the FBI continued to investigate. Sometimes people think differently when they're in a stressful situation. As for the local police, they were desperately looking for a black man with a brown truck as described in that video, but they weren't able to find anyone with those characteristics in that area. So the next step for police was to review Hannah's life to see if someone had been watching her. Thanks to this, they learned that before Hannah's disappearance, she was in contact with 34-year-old Maria Hopper and she only lived a kilometer away from her home. Investigators went to go speak with Maria, and she stated that she did know Hannah, but the last time she saw her was a couple of days before her disappearance, so investigators felt like they were coming to another dead end. But everything changed once they realized that Hannah had posted this video near Maria's home. On July 26, Maria was interviewed again, and she insisted on what she had said before. Her boyfriend, 45-year-old Joshua Thomas, was also in the home, and he stated he had no idea where Hannah was. After this conversation, police asked Maria if they could take a look around her house, and at first they didn't notice anything out of the ordinary until they saw some stairs leading to a basement. Once Maria saw that police were interested in going inside of the basement, she tried to tell them that there was nothing in there, it was just junk, but she was lying. Once they went inside of that basement, they saw that there was a different type of plywood, and it was covering another entrance inside of the basement. Once they removed it, they saw Hannah, and she had shackles on her ankles and handcuffs on her right hand. But Hannah ended up admitting that she was never kidnapped. She was there on her own free will. Hannah, Maria, and Joshua were taken to the police station, and they had admitted that Hannah had planned this all, and she was just looking for her two friends to help. Hannah admitted to investigators that she was writing a book and planned to be kidnapped so that she could feel inspired, so that she could know what real victims feel like. For her, Maria and Joshua were the only characters in her story that were able to help her. Hannah stated to make everything feel more realistic, they beat her in the basement, brought her food and drinks, and also broke her phone so that police could not track her. The video that was uploaded to Facebook was pre-recorded, and she practiced for a week to make it perfect. Once the truth was revealed, Hannah's family apologized to everyone who helped in the search for basically wasting their time. In September of 2020, the three were released on bail, and Hannah had pled guilty to false kidnapping. She was sentenced to 1 year of parole and has to complete 120 hours of community service.
7 years she supported her brother while he was in prison, and in return, when he got out, he would take her life. Janine Fisher lived in Houston with her 1-year-old daughter, Carly. And although Carly's father and Janine couldn't make things work and decided to split shortly after Carly was born, the two of them would be able to co-parent, and things seemed to be going well. Now, Janine's brother Kendrick was in prison and had been for armed robbery. However, sometime into his sentence, he would be caught with contraband and would have more time added, totaling about 7 years. But around this time, he was about to be released, and this was something that Janine was very excited about, as the two of them were very close. Janine supported her brother throughout the entire duration of his sentence and would often post about how excited she was for him to be able to get out and for them to be able to spend time together and for him to finally be able to meet his needs. In December of 2023, Kendrick would be released from prison, and Janine would take several pictures of him and Carly together, as this was their first time being able to meet in person. But it wasn't long before family members, more specifically Kendrick's mother, who he was living with, would notice that Kendrick did not change for the better. In fact, he had actually gotten worse since coming home from prison. He was more violent and quick to anger. He had become a problem for everyone in the family, and even at one point threatened everyone in the house, telling them that he would kill them, and there was no doubt in anyone's mind that he would do it. Now, as I previously stated, Kendrick was living with his mother after he got out of prison. However, she would put him out after he smoked lace weed and became even more aggressive and dangerous than he already was before. At that point, he would then move in with Janine and her 1-year-old daughter and had been living with them up until this point. November 23rd, 2024, less than a year of Kendrick being out of prison, he would get into an altercation with his mother and beat her up pretty bad. At that point, she decided that she was going to go to the police station and file a police report. However, they would only give her 2 forms to fill out regarding family violence and told them that they would be in touch. But nothing other than that was done. Kendrick wasn't arrested, and he was still living with Janine and her 1-year-old daughter, Carly. That was until the day after Thanksgiving, when Janine would reach out to a friend asking her her opinion on what she should do regarding her brother. Kendrick was once again acting very aggressive and did not want to leave her apartment, and it was starting to scare her. The friend suggested that she call the police in order to get Kendrick out of the apartment. However, it is believed that she was a little bit hesitant to do so because she didn't want to see him go back to jail. So the friend then told her that she was going to come over there to make sure that she and Carly was safe. However, when she was able to do so, it would be too late. Now, there are some conflicting reports regarding what happened next. However, majority of the reports state that the friend made it to the apartment, and when she looked into the window, she saw blood and a part of Carly's body. At that point, she then called the police. When police arrived and entered the apartment, they too found Carly, and they also found Kendrick, who was asleep on the couch. They then woke him up, arrested him, and then walked him downstairs. They then went into the bedroom where they found Janine completely covered in blood, and it was then realized that Kendrick had brutally stabbed the both of them to death. And due to the severity of the stabbing, it was nothing that they could do for either one of them. Janine's mother was furious when she found out that Kendrick had not only killed her daughter, but her granddaughter as well, and stated that the police failed her after she had filed multiple complaints against Kendrick that never went anywhere. But she didn't just feel like the police failed her alone. She also stated that Janine did call the police that day that Kendrick stabbed both her and her 1-year-old daughter. However, they just didn't do a thorough job.
The police and told him, don't knock on the door, because she got a camera up there. Don't knock on the door, kick it in. Do you think that man came out and did what he was supposed to? He knocked on the door and talked to my son. My son told him whatever he wanted to tell him, whatever question they asked. And he went on.
However, police claimed that when they made it to the apartment, they were not able to make contact, and so they left. Kendrick was charged with capital murder and initially was being held on a $200,000 bond, which later was increased to $3 million. My condolences to the family of both Janine and Carly. May they both rest in